Kerbal Space Program 2, the long-awaited sequel to 2015's Kerbal Space Program, one of the top simulation games of all time, releases on February 24th. Or at least the early access for KSP 2 will. That's a few weeks from the date of this video, and if you remove the time sleeping, working, eating, showering, that's basically 2 days. This means we've reached peak hype for its release, and at this point, after all the dev blogs, news articles, and of course little secrets and Easter eggs which tie into KSP 1, comes the speculation. Will it live up to that hype? The February 24th release date comes after multiple delays and pushbacks. Since its announcement in 2019, an initial release date of early 2020 was given, then pushed back to 2021, and then early 2022, with a little bit of publisher and developer issues thrown in that I won't get into in this video. And now finally it has a date, and a pretty detailed roadmap, but it has a dreaded early access tag to it. Squad does have a good track record with the original early access of Kerbal Space Program back in 2013, and with continued and consistent development of the game with regular patches, DLC, and updates, even after KSP 2 was announced. Now this isn't a video to dive into the early access plague spreading throughout the gaming scene. There are pros, there are cons, and perhaps a whole other video is warranted. But early access carries a connotation of half-finished games and cash grabs that invokes the knee-jerk reaction to stay away. KSP 2, however, with a dedicated developer, publisher, a solid vision, and consistent communication with the community, does look like it might live up to that hype. KSP 2 promises to be a complete overhaul of the original, not just from a graphical or UI standpoint, but scope of gameplay and features, including massive orbital ships, colonies, and interstellar travel. All while overcoming the biggest hurdle KSP has, which is the steep learning curve. Learning Kerbal Space Program involved hours of reading, watching YouTube, and scrolling and posting on Reddit before you even knew how the game worked. And even with an immensely supportive community, this still kept a significant amount of people away, and some of the players that did try stopped playing after a frustrating first couple of hours of gameplay. However, from the ongoing dev blogs and videos from the development team, the onboarding of new players to the game and genre as a whole has been a huge focus right from the start. While this isn't a feature that would necessarily help the veterans, it's a good sign for the game's longevity, with new players staying around. But the game will also bring something new to those veterans as well. Even after thousands of hours of playing KSP over the past 5 to 6 years, I still barely scratched the surface of the game, or other planets in the solar system, of which there are 7. KSP 2 promises over 100 planets spread over multiple star systems for us to visit, with interstellar-sized parts and ships. While I do expect most of these planets to be fairly small, generic, and probably procedurally generated, there is a promise of a large number of bespoke planets for us to explore. The early access roadmap includes one of the new star system and parts that we need to travel to. Now all this could have been done with a heavily modded version of KSP, but we're not only going to be sending probes to crash on these planets or simple landers to explore the surface, but also establish colonies and orbital stations in the new star system. A huge missing part of the original Kerbal Space Program was the realism that comes with long space journeys, from habitats for your Kerbonauts to live in, the food and air they will need. And again, you could have done this with a collection of mods, but KSP 2 Early Access hints to the eventual inclusion of colony establishing parts and orbital systems for your Kerbal's journeys to these new star systems, including resource gathering from nearby asteroids, planets, and moons. Of course, all this exploration has more purpose than just looking at pretty planets and building bases, and that's science. The bread and butter of any Kerbal Space Program playthrough is doing these science experiments, studying goo physics, and bringing samples back for more study and unlocking of new parts and toys. KSP 2 Early Access will also bring a new tech tree progression system, improve on the science collection system, which was tedious to say the least. There has been limited details about this to showcase, but it sounds like it will release with the second stage of Early Access according to the roadmap. One thing that is bound to help with the exploration, building, and collection of science from all around the solar system is the announced addition of multiplayer to the game. Not much details have been provided, other than maybe multiple launch sites, co-op, and competing space agency modes. Multiplayer is set to release at the end of the early access phase. Now again, it's no secret that KSP was heavily supported by the amazing modding community, which expanded and improved its features from additional voice lines and parts to fully replacing the solar system. The developers have promised that a level of modding capabilities is carried over into the design philosophy of KSP 2. Hopefully, this gave you an idea of what to expect from the early access journey, and it's going to be a journey as only the revamped UI, parts, and tutorials will be included on the initial launch of early access, basically the sandbox mode. With no timeline on full release, and only a roadmap being provided, we have no way to judge the cadence and the promised milestones, only speculation at this point. And based on KSP 1's release history, best case scenario is a new update to the early access every 4 to 6 months, which would put the early access roadmap duration at approximately 2 to 3 years, with science mode being the first and multiplayer being the last to be added. This lines up with the original KSP early access to release timeline. As of the date of this video, there hasn't been a confirmed price point for the game yet, as there is no official price on the Steam, Epic, or even the developer website, and I believe this is what will make or break the early access. It will likely line up with the average $50 price point, which would be great. However, we don't know yet if there will be an early adopter incentive like lifetime DLC, which is unlikely, or deluxe add-ons bumping the price point even higher, which is a red flag to some people. From my perspective, however, there hasn't been any indication or signs that Intercept Games or Private Division is pushing for any of this, and with the earlier mentioned pushbacks to the release date and the dev interviews, they want to build a solid foundation before moving forward and layering more features with further releases. And it seems they are the type of development group that will wait until their product is polished to release something to their fans, rather than go for a quick cash grab. With all this being said, I will be embarking on the KSP2 journey on the first rocket out. Early access be damned. While this may be hypocritical to the people that know me, I'm willing to take the risk on this specific game, developer, and publisher. So check back here to see if I regret my decision, or if the game lives up to the hype. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos, follow me over on Twitch for live streams, and always make time for games.